present for the oil producing community is too low.
So the support that is needed, and once you get the support, your energy will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning and welcome to the last edition of Inside Nigeria Leadership Television this Friday, April 8th, 2022. My name is Winnie Philip. It's my pleasure to be hosting you on today's program. With me in the studio is our public affairs analyst and Friday Tony man. His name is Mr. Majid Modahiru. Mr. Majid, it's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
It's
so
nice to
much
be
for
here too.
joining us. Thank you. We have 4 papers for review. We'll be talking about Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership, its sister publication, National Economy, THISDAY, and Vanguard. We're starting off with leadership. Let's see what leadership is leading with this Friday. President Muhammad Buhari shocks states, local government areas, defers new sharing formula. PMB shocks states, local government areas, defers new sharing formula. ROMAFC proposes 45.17% for federal government, states 29.7%, local government areas 21.04%. President's approval to borrow more for 7.35 trillion budget deficit. President Muhammad Buhari shocks states, local government areas, defers new sharing formula. ROMAFC proposes 45.7% for federal government, states 29.7%, and 21.04% for local government areas. President seeks approval to borrow more for 7.35 trillion naira budget deficit. That is the headline story on leadership this Friday, 8th April 2022. Mr. Dairu, President seeks approval to borrow more.
Yeah, to fund the 2022 budget, particularly the component that has to do with fuel subsidy, they are requiring 4 trillion to go into payment for fuel subsidies. And maybe that's why some people are saying the subsidies have become unsustainable. But we would always maintain that until such a time that the government can find a solution
Mm.
to our energy insecurity, they should do all that they can to make sure that we buy petrol at a price that is reasonable, a price that's affordable, and we have the access to this very important commodity. In fact, at the current price, it is even too high compared to the average income of Nigerians. So the government should just do what it can, and we hope that the incoming government will now take more lasting steps to make sure that we're able to refine at home and dispense at a price that is appropriate for an oil producing country like Nigeria. But back to the lead story, the
Yes,
PMB
that's what I
shocks, PMB shock states. Well, is it really a shock? But I think that first and foremost, it is good that the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal uh, Commission has come up with this, you know,
But
uh,
don't you think that even with this new sharing formula is not what Nigerians were expecting? But you still see that the gap between federal government and state is still so wide. It's almost twice.
that's because as we still speak, the government has a lot of responsibilities. And maybe that's why for the first time I might be willing to give the president some benefit of doubt when he actually made the point that he would wait for the outcome of the constitutional amendment
Yes.
before sending this as an executive bill to
Mm,
the National Assembly to enact into a law.
mm,
So I think that is we are still in the process of reviewing the allocation formula,
mm.
which was last done in 1992.
Yes.
So I think we're still on course. So let us see the outcome of the constitutional amendment as by the president, because if and the other sub limits
Mm,
and the federal government is left with maybe fewer responsibilities that man in house now,
Mm.
and then there might even be a need to readjust in line with what you observe
Exactly.
and give more to the states
Yes, because we are talking about judiciary autonomy too.
and all other
It
responsibilities.
should be
So if
by the state.
so, I think it is quite important.
Mm.
The parent is right to say that we should wait for the outcome of the constitutional amendment so that we will now take a second look at the proposal.
Mm.
If there are areas that needs to be adjusted,
Just it.
if not, we can now send the National Assembly as complementing the
Mm.
outcome of the constitutional amendment. So I think it is still in order. The first important step has been taken, which is the commission itself has come out with a review, and at least they're giving more now, even with this, to the states and local governments, and reduce a bit for the
They
federal
just
government.
reduce a bit, and it's just
I
about
think it's a,
five, five,
I think
three
it's a
percent.
step towards the right direction, even if it's a small step. So again, I'm very much inclined to agree with the president that the constitutional amendment outcome will
Determine.
determine, because again, you see, our problem is not so much about the revenue sharing formula, it's about the utilization.
Yeah.
With the current structure, if you give even more to the states, there's no guarantee that it will be translated into good governance
I agree
for
with
the
you
people.
because it's discovered that, yeah, I agree with you because for some of us that maybe we're on the feed covering bits around the stuff, it's discovered that some of these activities that states and local government are supposed to be carrying out in their states or domain, the federal government is still doing some.
The federal government
For
is still
instance,
more efficient.
primary healthcare centers,
About healthcare,
which
primary
also
schools.
under the purview of local government, the federal government will still be the one to build
So I think we need to
health
strengthen
centers.
the other units of government first for deployable resources. And I hope that the constitutional amendment will bring up progressive legislation that will strengthen and make the second and third tier of government very, very efficient and be able to effectively deliver good governance. At this level we are in now,
Mm.
I do not support any form of increase in revenue to states. No, 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 no. Because what they are receiving is not translating into dividends of democracy, but of good governance. So I don't even, it's not something I even want to think about. In fact, the federal government has been far, far, far more effective, more efficient in all these years
Mm.
compared to the other tiers of government. Yes.
I agree with you.
And so we don't, sometimes we don't need to look at these things emotionally. We need to look at it in objectively. So I agree 100% with the president. For the first time in a long time, I agree with the president on the position that we need to see through the constitutional amendment. But my worry here is also that the president didn't send any executive bill to actually uh, help advance the cause of the constitutional amendment in a way that would correct some defects in the federating unit. And so my worry is, I hope he's committed. I hope the president is actually committed to one, a slightly restructured federation through constitutional amendment, and so will be willing to also send this proposal to the National Assembly for legislation to give fiscal backing to the outcome of that restructuring. So I hope he has the political will to see all of this through. Otherwise, in principle, on paper, what he has said is the right thing. And let me also say this finally. It will be important that the president do not, at this time of his tenure, dying nowadays in his tenure, it will not be politically correct for the president to tamper with any structure now. So if you ask me, it will be good to defer this to the incoming administration. You know why? If the president does anything to change the formula of revenue allocation now radically, the incoming government, particularly at the center, might have another bite to fail to say, well, the volume of resources available to the federal government reduced
Yes.
before we came in. You know, was the same reason why the last administration, the President Jonathan administration, did not sign into law the constitutional amendment that was made by the Seventh Assembly before he left, because It came after he actually, it was like after he lost election, for example. So the idea was if you amend the constitution now in this manner, that reduces the powers of the executive, divorce power, the incompetent will feel that you have reduced the powers that you had. And he no longer has such powers to do the kind of thing he would have wanted to do. So it is, I think it's better to allow the incoming government to, on its own, pioneer the process of adjusting the revenue formula so that they will take responsibility for all their own actions. We don't want to see another blame game in the next 8 years going forward. Whether it's APC or PDP, we don't want to see that. So let's, I think it's good to leave this in abeyance. Yes, until the next administration. I believe that, look,
Just like he did with the PIA, Petroleum Industry.
no, he signed Petroleum Industry Act.
And but he also deferred implementation.
No, the final of the implementation was because of some.
Bottlenecks.
In the truth is, you see, the PIA was not the silver bullet we were waiting for. And after all, we made so much noise about the law governing the industry. What we needed in that industry was simply strong administrative procedure that will make it more efficient. And again, let me say this: if the government does not participate in the initial production, nobody can be free. I challenge anybody to go around the whole of Europe and Southeast Asia. Most of the European economies, up until very recently, post-war economies, were state capitalist enterprises. Government had direct involvement. So I don't know how you hope that somebody can do it for you. And after they signed the PIA, companies are divesting out of Nigeria. So the aluminum, for example, herself has been crying now that the block he acquired, he can't utilize it. So it tells you that you cannot leave these things to the so-called president. The government has a role to play in security of the environment, tightening regulations, and participating in the field. So PIA was not the silver bullet that was going to solve the problem or shoot us out of trouble. No. That's why they had to defy some aspects because there were defects in the law. It was like incompatible with the reality on ground. So that's a different matter. But this is very fundamental. It has to do with money. We don't want the next one to come out and say, I don't have enough money to work. I mean, it's a bit bad enough that this government complained that they left a bankrupt, they inherited a bankrupt system. So we don't want the government to say, I don't have money to work at all. So let the next government comes if the next president under whatever platform campaigns, for example, for devolution of powers, campaigns for increase in revenue allocation to states and reduction in federal government, and pledge to also lead the move towards devolving powers or what you can call restructuring of some sort. That president should now engage with his own assembly and his own revenue mobilization and fiscal allocation commission to come up with their own model of what they want within the first few months of their inauguration. I mean, for me, within the first quarter, come up with what you want, send to the National Assembly for concurrence. And once that is done, so you know that you are taking responsibility for what you have actually designed for yourself.
Yes, and that brings us to what you just mentioned. What is it that government, they always leave it a bit shade too late because we spend so much money. I think over and many billions are always budgeted for constitution amendment by National Assembly. At the end of the day, it's not passed into law. It becomes a new process in every government. So what
That's
can be done?
because there's
Like for
no.
instance, now this outgoing government, they just sent it to State House for assembly.
You see, let me tell you something about the National Assembly and this perennial attempt
Um,
to
amend the
amend the
constitution.
Constitution. It has become a meal ticket for members of that committee of the National Assembly. Something they do every year.
Every year.
And for me, it's even an abuse of our constitutional democracy. It is an abuse of our constitutional processes. We don't have to amend the laws all the time. What we require to do now is actually to implement these laws. I keep saying there's nothing so wrong with our constitution. What we need is proper implementation of the spirit and the letters of the constitution. That's all we need. But of course, somebody just wants to get busy, and so they always come up with phantom. But in a proper democracy, now this is where the rule of the political party comes in. The question will be, what is the agenda? What is the legislative agenda of the APC or the PDP? A party is supposed to have a legislative agenda. That is, the party will look at the constitution as it is today and decide that look, for us to effectively deal with our challenges, we need amendments in certain areas of the constitution. Fine. and that becomes a campaign tool, something you are going to campaign with in all your constituencies. So anybody standing on the platform of say PDP or APC will campaign with something like this. When we get on board, we're going to raise allocation from this level to this level to allow development at the grassroots. It will be a campaign thing. And so when they are voted in and the majority of Nigerians voting that party that campaigns on such an agenda and come into power, either in the legislature or in the executive, fine. It's expected of you to now put in place the process to do this. So it becomes your legislative agenda to do this. I don't need to do too much. A few tampering of the constitution is okay. Now, but if, for example, you don't win the election, you don't win. I mean, maybe Nigerians are not ready for this. So it becomes a minority agenda indeed. So the other party, whatever agenda they have, even if it means saying want to increase revenue allocation to federal government and they win, so be it. So there has to be a legislative agenda. So that will now guide the legislators in the assembly to now vote along the legislative agenda that brought us into power.
Exactly.
But it doesn't exist because the political parties are nothing but just platforms to win election. They don't guide the campaigns, they don't have a central message, they don't have a theme, nothing. It's just free for all. So now when they get to an assembly and they make you the deputy senate president or the deputy speaker, then you embark on constitutional amendments that last throughout the tenure. And it is done in a haphazard manner. Somebody from different government, even though it belongs to the same party, will come on the agenda. Some people came with the proposal that they would change the names of the localities in the two states.
we saw it.
So it tells you that. So I mean, that's that person's whole problem. That the names are sounding like a particular language. They want it to sound like another language. So it tells you that there is no legislative agenda. Somebody comes on the table and brings all sorts of, inanities. And that's why sometimes the presidents or the head of the executive do not assent to such amendment because it's haphazard, it's not coordinated, it's not oriented toward national development. So you can't sign such a thing into law. And that's why for some time they do not sign it. And I don't see anything different from what is happening now.
And what they also think that during the process of constitutional amendment, most lifelong lawmakers bring their personal
Very personal.
issues into it. For instance, state policing. That I think when it went round, most of the governors were for it, and PNB said no, he doesn't support it, and they removed it. So during the conference of House speakers of House, they even raised alarm. They were angry that why should state policing be removed? So how do you doctor it when personal issues come into
Exactly. That's why you need to have a party. Even the party campaigns with, for example, state policing. The president, the governors, the legislators are bound by the social contract they enter into the people to implement from head to bottom, from head to toe. Without, it's not something you shouldn't go back and begin to dictate over. It's something you must do. That's the reason why you voted.
So it shouldn't be based on personal
No,
prejudices that I don't want this.
no. You don't have a right. If other people are another very
The
important
lawmakers
question.
actually removed it.
The people are another very important question. The truth is, in principle, when legislators, through bipartisan arrangement, pass a piece of legislation into law, ordinarily the president has no choice than to sign it, except such a legislation does not enjoy bipartisan support. That is, members of his party could be minority in the House. It's possible to have a president from a party and the parliament is dominated by the opposition party. It's a possibility. Except the members of the opposition party in the parliament do not agree with that. And maybe they too campaign to the people based on disagreeing with this agenda. And the president cannot explore executive power to frustrate that or to get a compromise. Fine. But if the APC and the PDP, as it is in Nigeria, come together actually to pass a legislation into law, the president has no moral right or authority to reject it because that's what the people want. The only thing the president can do is, as the leader of the party, he goes back to the political party. He calls a meeting. They have national caucus meetings. You see, your next meeting that you do, you don't have to come and discuss how to go and sell forms and win election. Your next meeting is supposed to be a policy formulating place where you sit down and explore all issues like this and come to agreement on what we need to do as a government. That's what you do at NEC. Why governors attend NEC meeting? Party chairman in the state attend NEC meeting. Depends on the member of the NEC and some other senior members of the party. That's why you discuss and arrive at your agenda for national development. So from that time you go to NEC to revisit it, adjust it, and continue. That's what you do at NEC.
Fortunately, I don't think Nigerians political parties has such.
That's what a
PDP
NEC.
did not also have
That's
it,
it. No
and
party has it.
and
That's what
APC.
your NEC is supposed to be about. Then at the national caucus level, it's also the same. It's development or agenda for the development of the country. So when you arrive at such, so if you have any problem with say state police, this is where you're going to get them to buy into your agenda. It's okay. As the leader of this party, you have trusted me to be your president. I do not think Nigeria is right for state police for social and so on. So step it down for now. But in as a substitute, there are some things I will do from the executive branch through some administrative instruments to fill the gap for this same thing. You can discuss, you debate it. However, if at that same meeting they refuse to go your way, you have to bow to them. But if you're able to put your argument, if indeed you are not altruistic, I put it forward, and people see reason with you, they follow. Democracy is beautiful if only you practice it well. It is beautiful. It is God's own decreed way of government. It allows for participation. So this is what should be happening at NEC meetings. Not election and how to win. That's not what NEC is supposed to be for. NEC is a policy arena where you go and discuss policies, party programs, get feedbacks, adjustment, okay, and agree on an agenda, and then transmit it to the nation. So we have agreed as a party. This is what we want to do going forward. But that's not the case in Nigeria. It's not the case.
From leadership newspaper, we are moving over to Vanguard. Vanguard has a disturbing story on its headline this morning. Let's see what Vanguard is saying on its cover. Vanguard said, terrorists to federal government, talk to us or we kill all 167 captives. Terrorists to FG, talk to us or we kill all 167 captives. 167 passengers still in captivity. Says government should hasten to meet us before we turn this place into an abattoir. Abductors have collected 250 million naira ransom so far. Injured air soldier Sergeant Funtua dies. Pastors protest killings in Kaduna, demand massive bombing of bandits. High-profile tourist commander surrenders. Defense headquarters. Bank of Agriculture acting MD allegedly paid 100 million naira to secure release. These are potpourris of stories on Vanguard newspaper. Underneath the headline story, terrorists to federal government, talk to us or we kill all 167 captives. So disturbing.
Yes, I watched the video, and the attack on the train, the Abuja Kaduna train, is a very sophisticated operation.
Yes.
And there are indications now that there's now an infiltration or like convergence between ISWAP and the regular bandits around the central part of Nigeria, to which Kaduna is part of the axis.
Niger.
Yeah, central part of Nigeria, from Kaduna to Niger to FCT, Kogi, Nasarawa. It appears as though ISWAP may have announced its presence with this attack. It's also because now, if you look at the mode of operation, ISWAP was able to derail the track, halt the train, and they attacked people inside and abducted money. Now, there are elements of bandits among the operators, but what you will see is that there's this professional touch, professional terrorist touch to it, use of videos, and most importantly, for eyewitnesses, they said you are chanting Allah Akbar to ban people and are shooting sporadically. So we know that ISWAP, they carry out their criminal activities in the name of religion, and they are very, very, very formidable in the field when it comes to combat. But it's believed that a lot of them have gone for trainings in foreign, in other terrorist jurisdictions, and some might even be people with prior military experience, because they are just, a potent terrorist group. Secondly, they came with vehicles. And the regular bandits do not use vehicles to evacuate their abductees. No, they walk you
Yes, to the
several
forest.
kilometers. And that is their own specialty. But this was still vehicles, meaning that some people among them that are not people that have been preoccupied with walking long distances in their cultural occupation. So it tells you that there is a convergence, there is an external force coming into the part of the country. And that's very dangerous. Uh, we do not know where they will strike now. That is what the government should be thinking about now. Where else would this people strike? Because this is becoming more and more daring. Now, what they want is money, essentially. But I also believe that there could be something that they also want. Some have said there are elements of Ansaru, and that Ansaru is another, is like uh, jihadi headsmen groups, and that some of the members are being held by the government and they want them released. A lot of conspiracy theories. But one thing I know that this want is money. And they begin a lot of money from the abductees. A lot of money. Somebody said somewhere that they estimated that this will go to $1 billion at the end of ransom. Yes. At the end of the ransom payment. The release of the various people there.
But they said they have collected 250 ransom.
And there are very and you have 167 people still there, including very high profile Nigerians. High profile. That's we don't want to be naming them now because of their identity, or they don't inject them. So it tells you that there's something these people are up to, and they are making a lot of money from this activity. And why is this still going on? Number one, the government, president in this instance, is also the commander in chief, has not shown the political will to tackle this pattern of insecurity. I'm not the one who have said it. A lot of pundits have said it. Why is the government seemingly soft on this people? How is it possible for these people to be comfortable enough to do video and send? A lot of fine lines have been blocked that they've not linked their NIM to that same. And yet these people are still operating and making calls. What is happening? So of what use is the linkage between SIM and NIM if you cannot track the calls people are making to get ransom? For the use. Why punish other Nigerians?
Yes.
So there's something we're not doing. The governor of Kaduna has expressed frustration. He said, look, we know where they are. The government is refusing to bomb them. He made this allegation.
Yes.
We need to take that seriously. Why is our president refusing to bombard people that are kidnapping and killing us? And what is it that this will say that they know that they want and that they should do the needful? What is the bond? What is the relationship between these people and the people in authority? Why are you not bombarding them? You bought Tucano jet. So what has happened to Tucano jet? And why is the president refusing? Oh,
Especially since they have been labeled and tagged as a terrorist.
even beyond Tucano jet, why is our president resisting every attempt to restructure or reconfigure our national security strategy to allow for things like state policing, to allow for civil armament? Even vigilantes have been prescribed in what other areas?
Yes.
Why is it that we're not doing anything about this? Why does it seem as anything that will help out in the situation is being discouraged? Why? So I think at this point, it's no longer about discussing the strategy or how to combat terrorism. It is to focus on the political will or lack of it in this instance. What is happening? We need to now know. And I want to ask, on whose side is our president and commander in chief in this matter? We're not seeing the kind of anger we see in display when it comes to IPOB, when it comes to Sunday Igboho and the Yoruba Nation movement. We know that kind of anger. If the president can actually order the abduction of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya,
Okay.
why is it now difficult to abduct people like Dogo Gide, people like Ali Kachala, people like Bello, Tutu, another terrorist kingpin, and bring them to justice. If Sunday who didn't kill one person, one, one person, only thing was that he protested the killings of his own people. I was trying to escape from the country, was intercepted in the Republic, and he took out of diplomatic, cultural, and diplomatic effort by the Yoruba nation to get him released in Benin. If they're able to go that far, raid his home, arrest people, kill people in his house, doing facts, how can we not see the same thing when it comes to these people? What is happening? At this point, Nigerians should begin to ask questions. Something is not, I don't know. No, no, definitely not. And we need to begin to ask those that are in charge of our security, what is happening? Why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? Now, they come up with a program of repentant Boko Haram, and we criticized it and said, yes, you can take prisoners of war and not kill them, but you must remain prisoners until the end of the war. You can't take prisoners of war into the society. You have to be recycling of terrorists because 6 months in your so-called radicalization camp is not enough to radicalize any radicalized person. But they have been releasing this open society, and the war on terror in Bordeaux has remained intractable. So we need to ask what sort of strategy is that? Now, we've seen offers of amnesty to bandits and narco terrorists for so long. We should see the government categorizing uh, the terrorist attacks in communities, Benue, Plateau, Taraba, as former harbors clashes.
Yes.
When the Southwestern states decided to come up with a model, it was resisted by the federal government. So you need to ask, you can't protect people and want to protect themselves, and you're resisting it. What is happening? What is it? So we need to begin to ask these questions. Mr. President, what is happening? We need answers. Because this is our country, not another country. Even with this, we've not seen federal government is not, we don't see that anger, we're not seeing that, that determination once and for all to conquer this. We're not seeing it, we're still not seeing it. We're not seeing it. People are dying, soldiers are dying, policemen are dying.
Also, terrorists.
Terrorists.
It's really, really sad and very, very unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue with our newspaper review. Don't go away, stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. The program still is Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. With me in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Mr. Chief Dahiro, and I'm Winifred Bebo. Our next paper for review is our sister publication, National Economy. National Economy's headline is Federal Government Shift to Local Borrowing May Eliminate Forest Fluctuations. Federal government shift to local borrowing may eliminate forex fluctuations. Move to breach 7.4 trillion naira budget deficit will strengthen capital markets, say experts. Move to breach 7.4 trillion naira budget deficit will strengthen capital markets, according to experts. That's on national economy this Friday.
Sometimes uh, those we call experts actually, you begin to wonder. Now the idea is that the government borrows, from within.
Within.
It is going to because I think at the rate the rate that DMO announced was 12% per annum interest rate. So it means that you strengthen the capital market actually. But there's something the experts are not putting into cognizance. Where will the government get the money to pay the interest rate or pay back the debt in the long, in fact, even not just in the long run, in the midterm, because as long as Nigeria is still not having enough revenue from export or external receipt, then you're going to run the risk of defaulting on its obligations to local borrowers, local lenders, I mean. And when that happens, the economy, the capital market will not be strong, it will collapse. The government will collapse it. So I think this is a red light. Red is like a warning, it's a danger sign that we're no longer even able to access loans overseas. China is no longer giving us loans. I'm sure Europeans are also no longer giving us. So we're not going to look inward, and somebody is thinking that it's a good thing for us. What if government defaults? And that is the fear of those that the lenders abroad that are no longer giving us the facilities we require. Because they've seen that we do not have a revenue source that can service these loans or repay them back. People make the allusion sometimes that America is also an indebted nation. And I say no. The difference between the American indebtedness and Nigerian indebtedness is this. It's like America is like a businessman who has a lot of activities he's doing. And so people are running after him. To say, can I borrow you this money to put in your business? So when you make your profit as usual, you are gain from it. That's the kind of debt America is holding. America is not borrowing to finance its budget. America is not borrowing to service debt. America
Subsidize.
America is not borrowing. No. America is borrowing to do business. American economy is the largest economy in the world. It is running neck to neck with China as the largest exporter in the whole world. So its economy is profitable. So when you give them money, you get your return on investment. Some banks give Dangote for them money and people to sleep. It's very you to make money. That's the difference. And we will not compare ourselves with such countries. We only have one major source of foreign exchange: crude oil sales. Crude. And until we begin the process of diversifying our source of foreign exchange, this problem, maybe one day we'll not just borrow from the capital market, we'll start borrowing from individuals in Nigeria to finance governments. We're going to get there. We've raised taxes as well, because you cannot raise taxes in a recessed economy and afford to gain revenue. You cannot. Because you need people to be buoyant enough to pay tax. So the first responsibility is create that buoyancy. And how do you create it? It is to link your local economy to an export competitive market. Look, we can go round and round. If we don't go back to that, the basics, we will not get out of this debt trap. For example, a farmer in Benue that's cultivating oranges, going to sit down, all he needs to do is to go to farm. The security is there, the infrastructure is there. He goes in, tend to his farm, harvests his orange. And as he's harvesting it like this, the value comment is what the value chain of taking it from him, processing it and exporting it, and paying him his money. Once that orange finds his way first into the Nigerian market as a substitute for potential of processed fruit products, and then we export it into European market, for example. It means the man in Benue, when he doesn't need to come to Abuja, he will stay in his village in Benue and be a millionaire, if an farmer millionaire. The same thing with all other endowments in Nigeria. If you do not tie them to an export competitive economy, that brings in forex into the different sections of this country, you keep having this problem. As you speak, none of other sectors of the economy, upon crude oil sales, is export competitive. We're going to make efforts in entertainment. Entertainment is really bringing us forex. Exactly. But even at that, government is moving and support the same way that American government supporting Hollywood. But if you look at it, it's just in the real creativity that is helping that sector. That is now trying to export cement and fertilizer into both African markets and even America. We need to do more of that. Today, China, Europe, is trying to divest from gas supplies from Russia. We are able to fill the gap because most of the Niger Delta state governments have not invested in critical infrastructure in the oil and gas industry enough to export gas to Europe. So, how do you expect to achieve self-sufficiency and reduce your budget deficit and your indebtedness without being productive? And the way you can be productive is for government. Again, I repeat, and I reiterate and I emphasize, it's for government to roll up its sleeves and get involved. At this stage of our development, we need government to get involved. Government has to get involved. Obajan and cement factory is located in Kogi State. We are hopeful. Obajan made or added to the fortunes of Dangote. It's a very well-run facility that produces cement daily, very efficiently run. But the profit goes to Dangote because we did not have the foresight or the efficient government at the state level to run a similar enterprise. So that profit will not come into the state as revenue. We didn't do that. We're still not doing that. We're looking for tax. For Dangote. For tax. So it's everything across the country. Governors have the luxury to buy SUVs for emirs because they're not investing money in enterprises. So you can afford to buy SUVs and cars for traditional rulers. You know what state as a So one of the keys to actually get out of this problem, trying to expand this conversation beyond what the efforts are saying. You see, we need states to specialize in one or two export competitive commodities or services. Each of the services of the federation, either in clusters or individually. So we need to economically reconfigure our federating units into geo-economic zones, away from geopolitical zones. So instead, like Kogi, for example, has more in common with Edo and Ekiti. So they can form a common geo-economic zone. The same way that the states like Plateau, Nasarawa, and parts of Kaduna have something in common more. Niger State has more in common with Kebbi, Sokoto, and Kwara. So it's a matter of reconfiguring. So you now look at what do we do jointly along this zone that can yield and export competitive services or economy or commodities. And the government will use foreign policy and other actual policies to support it for the purpose of spurring the economies in these areas. So that everybody will be in their locations and prosper within the framework of national development. We don't have that now. What we have is ad hoc arrangements, ad hoc and haphazard economic policies and programs that are resulting from knee-jerk approach to solving problems in an emergency manner. We don't have a sustained program of action or a policy framework that ties the economies of the various locations in Nigeria to an export competitive economy. But at this point, it has to be a deliberate political solution to arrive at this. I keep hammering on that. The political parties are supposed to be the ones itemizing, aggregating, and articulating these things we're talking about. Political parties. It will be the basis for going to government. It is easier that way. It has to come from the political parties. It has to be their own beliefs that look, we need to do so and so, to achieve so and so. But unfortunately, our political process is broken. It cannot yield fruit. So I'm hoping that with the kind of problems we are facing today in Nigeria, Our economic problems are actually an existential threat to Nigeria as a nation, just as our insecurity is. So I'm expecting that those that are just linked to President of Nigeria today must begin to think, oh, this is not going to be business as usual. As people throw money around, pay money to delegates already, that's a recipe for disaster going forward. Because they want to recoup that money, and the same system we are operating now will continue.
We'll continue until God knows.
Until God knows when. We want to see thinkers, and Nigerians should vote for thinkers. It's a political decision we want to make now as a people and as a nation. Thinkers, those that have the capability to create wealth. Don't vote for someone that will come and give you money, otherwise you won't have anybody to blame going forward. We need critical thinkers now. And for me, even the political parties should know that we cannot afford this waste anymore. So they should be at the forefront of bringing about a critical thinking that is needed now to push our political economy forward. We are in their situation. Let me tell you, we are almost in Zimbabwe economically. We are almost in South Sudan and Sudan security-wise. So you see, it's a problem that has both security and economic dimension. So we cannot afford to make a mistake in 2023 by voting for certain kind of tendencies that has kept us where we are today.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on the national economics headline story this Friday. We're moving over to the last paper we have on our menu. So we have so many comments on our program. We cannot take that for now. We are moving over to the last paper we have on our menu, and that is this day. This day says, be firm, fair to all party members. Buhari charges APC chairman. Be firm, fair to all party members. Buhari charges APC chairman. Says he will continue to entrench democratic principles in governance. Adamu, that is the APC chairman, I'm now in charge. That is headline story for Vanguard. For this day, sorry.
You see, I'm not very optimistic about what the president is saying about the prospect of the APC and even the PDP at that to become the kind of party we want to see. It is because our president, like many other politicians, does not understand the importance of the political party. That he can actually support somebody like Abdullah Abdul call it chairman of one of the widest progressive party like the APC. And I hope he belongs to yesterday. He was a founding member of the KJP, governor of PDP 18. He was a staunch ally of President Obasanjo, the people that he supported third time. Maybe he was a member of the PDP until 2014 when it became clear that the PDP was sinking and everybody jumped into the APC. In line with what I'm saying, what I've been talking about, we had thought that if the president had failed in every aspect, political party management, he should have known that what was needed at this time for the APC was a philosopher, a thinker, somebody that understands this issue more than I do,
Yes.
and can articulate more than I can do now. Somebody who is forward-looking, who understands that the political party is the harbinger, is the incubation ground for progressive idealism on how to build a nation that can guarantee security for the citizens. And so we need to bring in such people into the party now to begin the process of correcting how leaders are recruited democratically from the party. So you discover that if you bring in such kind of people, patriotic, philosophy in everything that you do, the quality of aspirants in the next position from the APC will signal hope. We will see people that have what it now really takes to deliver. And the process that will them up will be devoid of corruption. There will be internet democracy. The party will set rules and even criminalize, if possible, monetary inducement. Because parties need to do that now. Parties need to ban monetary inducement and criminalize it and prosecute anybody that is found trying to use money to induce people, because that person does not mean well for Nigeria. Anybody who pays money for delegates now in this a country that is bleeding like this does not mean well for this country. So the parties and the managers of the party are supposed to be the ones to ensure that the party and his membership was voting for only the best that will emerge without having to pay too much money. So that they don't have the burden of trying to recoup their investments. And can now go ahead and implement the party manifesto to the letter. Unfortunately, we saw an Omishore coming in as secretary. We saw Abladam coming in as party chairman. The regular old people taking over the party. So, but your paper reported that the PDP has taken over the APC.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
And this is a party you blame for destroying Nigeria in 16 years. And you appointed over the party to elements within that party that we are part of that destruction in that 16 years we're talking about. So what hope does APC now hold for the ordinary Nigerian that is looking up to political parties for leadership? Now, if you look at the sales of the cost of nomination forms of the PDP, we're not seeing that of the APC. It might not be different. It tells you that this is a highly monetized, money-inducing enterprise. Another of all of us have said it several, those of us that are frustrated with the system, that our political process has degenerated into a criminal franchise of power grab or power purchase for self-service. The current constitution of the executive committee of the APC does not indicate that there will be a change from this pattern going forward. So if these same people are the ones that will show up the next political leaders, what hope do we have that they can do the needed turnaround in this country? There's no hope. And it's the same thing with the PDP. There's no hope.
The PDP does not seem to have learned its lesson.
They have not. The APC have not learned lessons. PDP have not learned lessons. So Nigerians are now left in a limbo, having to choose from bad or worse or both. We don't even know. So our democracy has been delegitimized by the players in the politics. The greatest danger to our democracy today are the politicians themselves, because they are anything but democratic. They have refused to play democracy by the rules, by the universal rules governing democracy, which is morality, ethics, and patriotism. You know, I hear people talk about things like power is not given, it's taken. And I laugh. That's not a democracy. In a democracy, power is given freely by the people to whom they want to give it to. You can't take it from them. It shouldn't be taken. But you have governors, you have people that are in the politicians, Democrats, making this claim the power is not given, it is taken. I begin to wonder where we are. You have people quoting Machiavelli in a democracy. Forget that Machiavelli was a piece of literature that was written in a lawless society of Italy. It was not supposed to govern it was not the rules governing the leadership of a democratic society. And people imbibe it and justify it and rationalize it. There should be nothing Machiavellian in a democracy. There should be nothing like power is not given but taken in a democracy. Power is given freely by the people, easily, and so taken back from you when they feel you're not doing the right thing. So you can see that there's a dearth of democratic thinking among our Democrats. So how can democracy work for us? All over West Africa, democracy is failing. Not because democracy itself is a failure, but because we as a people have failed democracy as a system of government. We have failed democracy. And we keep failing democracy. And that's why Adamu and co man and political parties, we are set to fail democracy more going forward. And so it's not a matter of being fair to one member. You cannot be fair when you emerge the manner you emerged. He was not voted for. He was imposed. So what fairness are you talking about?
Thank you so much, Mr. Majid. Thank you so much for taking that time to be with us this Friday.
Thank you very much.
Read some of the papers. Well, if you ask this, well, call it a day. And today is Inside Nigeria. I hope to see you next week. Remember, safety is a personal responsibility now, so you have to play safe and keep yourself safe. I remain Winifred Bobo. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.